against Governor Fubara. 26 lawmakers suspend Speaker. 3 others install Edison. Go to court. New Speaker tells aggrieved lawmakers. Adjourns House Synodine. Security operatives shot directly at me. That's according to Fubara. Challenges 24 legislators to list his offense. Condemns burning of assembly. Police command launches investigation. PDP governors summon emergency meeting today. That's the lead story. And they also have in pictures for you. Mayhem in Rivers. I mean, don't worry. I'm not the only one who's going to be dissected. It wouldn't be just Ayo and I. I mean, a number of things can happen, but I know that Timberland is not going to let this day pass it by in terms of looking at the news. So you stay tuned. He'll be on set anytime soon. But you also have a number of other stories right here. FEC approves 2.17 trillion naira 2023 supplementary budget. The story is on page 20. And look at the bottom right there. Supreme Court verdict. Struggle continues as long as I breathe. That's according to Atiku. Nigeria, greater than your selfish ambition. Presidency, APC tell ex-VP. Stories on page 9 all in the paper. And take a look at this number 12, or page 12. Protests rock Jos over alleged conflicting tribunal judgments. That's right there. And this obituary, amidst all of the noise, an Iroko fell yesterday. Tributes as elder statesman Nwabweze dies at 94. That is on page 11 for you. And of course, in the world of sports, that's something also happened right there. Messi wins 8th Ballon d'Or. That story is on the back page of Vanguard Sports for you. We're going to leave it there. Your Mr. and Mrs. is also right there. Well, I'll leave you to do that yourself. Let's leave it there for Vanguard newspapers.
I could protest on behalf of all of us fans of Mr. and Mrs. because Mrs. was this morning defining the difference between a vegetarian and a Hungarian. Or it's a Hungarian, whatever. Go check it out yourself. Switch to the Nigerian Tribune. The headline is similar, but the words are different. Mayhem in Rivers. That's the way the Nigerian Tribune puts it. Stakeholders allege Wike Fubara at war. Suspected thugs set House of Assembly ablaze. House removes majority leader, serves governor with impeachment notice. Tell me why you want to impeach me, according to the governor. Another faction elects new speaker. Oh dear. Okay, police deploy water cannon, tear gas to disperse protesting youths. Governor affected. Call Wike to order. Edwin Clark tells presidency. Details of that you'll find on page 15. Of course, some of those pictures you see on the front page, that of the Rivers State House of Assembly complex that was set on Monday. That was yesterday. Well, I really don't know what to make of it, but I guess the next few days will show us some light. At the bottom of the page, the story says, history will vindicate me over Supreme Court judgments ascribed to Atiku. Struggle for democracy should now be led by a younger generation, he says. Advocates 6-year tenure rotational presidency to prevent regional gang-up. Be a statesman. Congratulate Tinubu, APC tells Atiku. Details of that you'll find on the inside pages, page 17 to be precise. Right above the nameplate, how seniority arrangements stalled appointment of new Supreme Court justices. I don't know what to make of that, but let's hope we'll get some light on that later on this program this morning. And Alaafin Stool, court hears suit filed by Oyo Kingmakers against Makinde today. Well, That and a number of other stories, but this one is not pleasant. 70 bodies found in Abia community. What in the world? That story is on page 28. A number of other newspapers put them very differently. And of course, Ohaneze leader Nwabueze dies, Tinubu others mourn. That story is also on page 28. That's the Nigerian Tribune this morning.
Yeah, good morning, everybody.
Someone, I told you. I said so.
Someone told me yesterday, he said, look, that crisis can wake up the dead. The way the whole thing was going, wherever you were, you were just about to say, what is going on here, man? What is going on? Well, sometimes when you think you've seen it all, and you just see all shades, oh boy. Of course, expectedly, that's what the dailies are highlighting this morning, and it is, in fact, still unfolding. And so leadership also lead with that lead story here today. Confusion as Rivers lawmakers plot separate impeachments. This is the day that the lawyers will, the day made for lawyers too. Politicians may be glad in it as well, depending on what side of the divide that you are in.
I wasn't sure if it was quoting a Bible verse or two, because I was like, this is the day I was expecting to hear the Lord has made, and then I hear that lawyers will do it. What did you say, the day made for lawyers?
Yeah.
Look, so, it's the day made for all of us.
Well, we won't be the ones who be interpreting what the law says, who's right, who's wrong, but ultimately, you know, they will all have a position on this kind of matters, and eventually, who knows? Who knows? Well, the riders, similar. 8 pro-Fubara legislators remove Speaker, Deputy Chief Judge. 24 others sign impeachment notice against Governor. PDP governors hold emergency meeting today. Clark seeks Tinubu's intervention. So all of that associated with that lead story on the unfolding drama. So, yeah, that's what that big one is about right here. And to add to that, just beside that, parliamentary workers shut down state assemblies. So what implication will this have in the scheme of things here in Rivers? Because some of them were citing the fact that they were having to adjourn indefinitely as a result of this action by workers, but you just never know. And then you get to see this palliatives. FG Labour meeting shifted, holds today. So all eyes will be on that as well. So it's delicate juggling, so you have to juggle a lot of things to see really what is going on. In the midst of that, Atiku hits Supreme Court, presidency fires back. That's about that Supreme Court election verdict, which the paper also highlights here.
Okay, I have a little spoiled for choice this morning. I mean, everyone
That's what this day can do to you.
I'm looking at, you know, what has happened and how the papers are captioning. Some find very few words. Others are using a lot of words. Depends on, you know, the editor's choice. But, you know, The Guardian, a total departure. They are looking ahead at the work that needs to be done and the fact that issues still remain. Issues, I don't want to say that they choose not to be distracted by the shenanigans of politicians. Instead, they're looking at the work that needs to be done. Take a look at the front page of The Guardian now. Licenses of 17 discos, gencos due for renewal, revocation, November 1.
Oh.
So today is the 31st of October. Tomorrow is the 1st of November, depending on where you are. I mean, if you're Catholic, I'll be All Saints Day. But page 6, this is what The Guardian is highlighting, that the licenses of discos is up for renewal or revocation. The story is on page 6 of the paper. They've listed all of the distribution companies right there. And there's a film over the light that is there, candlelight or bulb. I don't know which one you'll be seeing tomorrow, depending on what action the federal government or the NERC decides to take. But of course, there's no way they're going to miss the stories, the political stories for you. They capture all of that at the bottom of the paper. Crisis in Rivers as Assembly splits, gets 2 speakers, moves to impeach Fubara. The story is on page 6 of the paper for you. I'm not going away, says Atiku, as Tinubu aide knocks gloomy submission on democracy. The story is on page 3 of the paper, and they have a number of other stories here. Moral burden of using tainted celebrities as brand ambassadors, influencers. It's a news analysis they're doing for you. Page 4 is where you'll find details. UBA records 115% growth. PBT rises by 263% to 500. That's profit before tax, just in case you're wondering. Rises by 263% to 502.1 billion. It's a business story. You know, they always say how banks always record this amazing profits, regardless of whatever is happening in the economy. We should be asking more deeper questions of the banks. How are you doing so well when the economy seems to be struggling? But hey, maybe the banks just have their magic wands and we should all go and borrow a wand from them. I don't know, Paige.
Not sure that's the kind of wand people want to borrow.
We should just go and borrow a wand. I don't know. But the story is right there for you. And of course, they put a lot of business stories side by side so you can compare and contrast. But Guardian staying true to themselves this morning, always focusing on the economy and the job ahead. Let's leave it there for the paper.
Something a little more concerning, well, it's been concerning for a while, is what the Daily Trust newspaper leads with this morning. Daily Trust newspaper. 7 weeks after Tinubu's visit, Nigeria, UAE row lingers. Story is on page 4. Look at the writers. Nigerians in UAE cry out over work permit, visa ban. Thought this was done and over with. FG working to resolve issue. There's a scrap to an official. Decry slow pace in resolving diplomatic row. Find the details on the inside pages. And of course, that's story. That's Chamberlain, you say, and wake up the dead. Impeachment plot. PDP governors meet today to save Rivers governor. Find that detail, the details of that on page 11. And not too pleasant one here. 90 million Nigerians lack access to electricity. That's according to the president. Definitely not good news. At the bottom of the page, Tinubu Atiku continue feud after Supreme Court verdict. Judgment, mandate, bandit, robbery. Judgment, mandate, bandit, robbery, ex-VP. Your inordinate ambition doomed, that's according to presidency. Details you'll find on the inside pages this morning. And that's the Daily Trust newspaper today.
Okay. Try to. That's what I did, but it was like okay. I'm still processing that one though. But look at Business Day. I think a lot of businesses might be happy with this one. Relief for businesses as Nigeria waives tax penalties. Oh boy, this would be a huge sigh of relief. But just hang on. You need to read the story.
There needs to be conditions.
Oh yeah, so but look at the first one if it does help. Payment of taxes in dollars to stop before December. Government proposes emergency economic intervention bill. But I know, who would have thought? People pay taxes in dollars?
Yeah, especially the importing. I mean, the importers have always lamented, especially those who import petroleum products, have always lamented why it is they need to pay certain taxes to NIMASA in dollars. If they're bringing produce or products into the country. They say that there are some taxes that they need to pay to sometimes NIMASA. I don't know if customs is also involved, but I've heard that of NIMASA very clearly, and that these taxes must be paid USD. And it sometimes puts an additional burden on them, apart from what they've needed or sourced to go and look for their products abroad.
In that regard, yes, because I mean, this is something that we also have highlighted severally, that it should not be. There's no reason why that should be the case. Much as there are some transactions that, since it's on the international scene, it's got to be in dollars since it's a convertible currency, but all these other ones that originate and terminate here locally, so there should be no reason whatsoever. But Tayo Idele's committee, man, is still looking to see, we still want to go other steps to ensure that this affects at least businesses positively, because he talked about hundreds of taxes. I couldn't believe it, that people pay, and you wonder, why on earth would that be? This is what really lots of people should look forward to, because other crises, how does it affect you?
Well, fortunately, they're talk and implement committee. They're not a white paper committee.
Well, we'll have to ensure that the authorities do the right thing, because I don't think they'll have that committee. I don't expect that they should have that committee and then just let it be as such. Sit down, you come up with your recommendations, we wait with the white paper, you wait for implementation like forever. That won't be good.
No, but that's what he said, that they have been empowered to carry out their own recommendations.
Yeah, I'm talking about ensuring that the laws that needs to be changed are amended by National Assembly. Everybody has to put together.
Oh, of course.
It's not just
Certainly.
them. So we'll have to make sure that these things happen, because that's the bottom line. That's what affects the economy. That's what should be front line. So that's Business Day today.
Well, New Telegraph is also still focusing on what is happening, politically speaking. Drama as Fubara battles impeachment move by pro-Wike lawmakers. Says somebody will die one day. Alleges security shot directly at him. Sacks local government chairman, others. Ex-majority leader emerges new speaker. Clark asks Tinubu to caution minister security agencies. PDP governors schedule emergency meeting today. Crisis won't favor state. That's according to former Commissioner Semenitari. The story is on pages 226 and 29 for you. And you also have a number of other stories at the bottom here. How NSPMC paid 14 billion naira salary increase without approval, according to the Senate.
Oh, boy.
Audit queries, REA, NUPRC, NEPC, others to appear before reps within 72 hours. Nigeria not using her wealth to improve citizens' living conditions, attributed to Akpabio. And then you also see the Supreme Court judgment, I'll not quit politics, according to Atiku. You also have that obituary there for you. Constitutional lawyer, Professor Ben Wabeze, dies at 94. Tinubu Ohaneze, the patriot, others pay tribute right there. And INEC is still saying, give a poll. INEC says 239,256 PVCs uncollected. There is on page 26. And just in case you're one of those still hedging on what is happening on the... It depends on how you want to couch it now. It could be parallel market, black market. Forex, federal government plans major crackdown on parallel market operators. Naira crashes to record 993 naira, 82 kobo per dollar at the official window. Stories on page 3 of the paper. We're going to leave it there for Nita.
And switch to the Daily Trust newspaper this morning. What do we have on its front page? It is definitely also looking at what is happening right now in Rivers State. And the news is not just going to go away. Look at it. But that's not the lead, of course. 7 weeks after Tinubu's... Okay, I think we already took this the other time. We took this earlier. Switch to Daily Independent, my apologies. Daily Independent newspaper this morning, and what does it show to you? Daily Independent newspaper is interested in a number of other very interesting things. That's it. Wike Fubara rift festers as move to impeach governor fails. Details you'll find on the inside pages of the paper this morning. And of course, the writers are no less, how do we put this now? Delicious. And look at what you have right there on the front page. What I don't know is where this is all going. How this is all going to be resolved within the shortest possible time. It's something everyone is looking at and wondering, is there going to be light at the end of the tunnel? Where does the tunnel even end? Where does it end up? Where does it show itself? I guess we'll have to wait and see over time this morning because, hey, it is not just going to go away. And look at the bottom of the page, Supreme Court. That's according to the presidential election that we've had. That story is also right there on the front page of the paper. Supreme Court judgment. I'm sorry, I'm having some tech issues right here. But, you know, for now, that's the much of the paper that we can take. But look at what you have right there. It's just not going to go away. Look at it, the Daily Independent newspaper that we're talking about right now. Supreme Court judgment erodes trust in electoral system and democracy. That's according to Atiku. Says judgment legitimizes illegality, identity theft, perjury. Declares he's not leaving the political scene anytime soon. Presidency advises Atiku to quit political ambition, take a rest. Stories on page 6 of the Daily Independent newspaper this morning. And look at it right above the nameplate. Tinubu talks tough, warns ministers against campaign of calumny. That story is right there. It says he has confidence in integrity of his chief of staff. FG plans 2.2 trillion naira supplementary budget for defense wage awards. Now look at this one. Senate reveals how NSPMC paid 14 billion naira salary increase without approval. You wonder which one is NSPMC? Nigeria Security Printing and Minting Company. Yes, that one. That's the that one is from the Senate, and that's the Daily Independent newspaper this morning.
Okay, have a look at this Nigeria. It's a different headline entirely. 70 headless decomposing bodies uncovered near Abia Cattle Market. Scores killed as troops raid forests, arrest gun runner, recover weapons in Anambra. So that's their perspective of going on today. But at the bottom strip, they also highlight the ongoing development in Rivers, largely yesterday. Rivers, fire, fury as Assembly complex burns over alleged impeachment plan against governor. So that's what they also have there. And then FG approves 5.9 billion naira for Abuja light rail access roads. So expect a lot more development here today. So that's this Nigeria this morning.
I imagine that we've been spoiled for choice, and I think we've been. How many more do we have? Do we still have News Direct?
I believe we do.
Okay. I'm hoping that we'll be able to pop that up very quickly. Yes. And they also have this, but they're going with the other political story. Supreme Court verdict. Atiku breaks silence, berates judiciary. INEC. Stop being delusional. Accept defeat as a statement, as a statesman. APC to Atiku. That story is right there on the front page of the paper. Ogun leads other states in CNG switch as Abiodun vows to mitigate hardship. Okay, the story is on page 2 of the paper. Hopefully, anyways, let's look at other stories right there. How directors of Nigerian Minting Company approved 14 billion naira salary hike without regulatory approval. as according to a Senate investigation. The story is also on page 11 of the paper. I was just going to say for the Ogun story that it'll be interesting to see in the next couple of weeks, months, thereabout, how the CNG buses actually help transportation within Abeokuta, and Abeokuta is the capital of Ogun State, and then there are other parts of Ogun as well. How it actually helps mitigate, transport challenges, and give the people have a very good feedback. But certainly, it's a good move in the right direction, and some people will say that would be more around the kind of subsidy that we should be looking at for the people, and a good use of subsidy. Don't forget that there was this controversy around how the Ogun State government had utilized its 2 billion naira, yes,
oh, yeah.
For subsidy, and there was this LCD chairman who had come out to say, how do you want me to share this little bag of rice? There was some response from the Ogun State government. I would think, there ought to have been maybe a grander kind of response. Not just to that, but in terms of how they actually, in other words, seized the opportunity to explain precisely what it is that you intend to do with palliatives. And we should see that level of accountability, across different state governments. All state governments got this money. Now, if you've had to augment it from your own budget, because that was also some sort of palliative from the federal government to the states, there ought to be a very robust plan, and displayed by many states as to precisely what their plans are. Maybe some to give people food, the bulk of it we're going to invest in this. That's that sort of plan. But it's a good thing we're seeing the Ogun State government come up with the CNG buses.
I wonder how much those buses cost in terms of the unit cost compared to all the other items there.
It will also feature around accountability. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
And then to be able to monitor just how that affects the life of the masses and eases their transportation worries as the coming months and days go by.
Yeah, so that will be very interesting to see. They should go ahead and publish those details. It will be nice for us to be able to access them, whichever states. After all, that's what it's meant for. So when the public do see that, they can then say, well, okay, so far it's up to them to decide. So the states have a responsibility to publish how they have spent these funds. Let's know what their plans are. You don't want any state pocketing this amount of money, so it shouldn't be the case. Well, that wraps it up, I guess. We'll look at some of the dailies here this morning. We're back in a moment. Stay on with us.
Members of the River State House of Assembly are gathered in the unfamiliar setting of the auditorium, away from their usual venue, which was mysteriously burnt down last night. The Speaker makes his way in, and proceedings begin with the Speaker condemning in strong language the burning of the hallowed chambers. He accuses the House Leader, Edison Ehie, of supervising the burning on behalf of the government.
Sadly here, we see a situation where the legislature is being attacked and not allowed to perform. We cannot really understand why our own chambers will be burnt down because somebody does not want this arm of government to survive or to function. This is sad. This is a sad day for River State, and we know that security agencies will certainly do what is necessary to arrest all those who brought this bad news to River State.
3 items are brought before the House by the clerk. The first is the removal of Edison Ehie as leader. The second is the suspension of Edison Ehie representing Ahoda East, Victor Oko representing Bonny, Goodboy Sakari Goodboy representing Ahoda West, Adolphus Timothy representing Okpobonkoro from the House. And thirdly is the impeachment of Governor Fubara.
A very important motion.
Finally, Silvanus Mwakwa from Omuma constituency presents the notice of impeachment against the governor as signed by 24 members. The governor is accused of acts of gross misconduct unbecoming of the office of the governor.
Mr. Speaker, this morning I rise to move a very important motion brought pursuant to Order 12 and Order 28 of our standing orders. Mr. Speaker, the said motion is a motion to remove the majority leader of the Rivers State House of Assembly, Right Honorable Edison Ehie. Mr. Speaker, the reason for this motion is for inefficiency and ineffectiveness. Mr. Speaker, I so move. With your leave, Mr. Speaker, may I lay it at the table.
The Speaker asks that the notice of impeachment be forwarded to the governor and allow the legal process to take its course, after which he adjourns plenary indefinitely. Shortly after the sitting, a faction of the Assembly members met elsewhere and elected the former majority leader, Edison Ehie, as their Speaker.
My commitment to Rivers people is that I will be fair, I will be just to all and sundry, and I will ensure that the rule of law takes its course. I will not betray my colleagues, I will not betray Rivers people, I will not betray my constituents. I will also ensure the independence of the Rivers House Assembly is adhered to with mutual respect to the judiciary and the executive arm of government.
However, shots are heard outside and the lawmakers immediately flee the chambers as tear gas and water cannons are used to disperse protesters outside.
All right, welcome back. So yes, indeed, that is what we're focusing on this morning. And Professor Richard Nwakocha joins us. He's of the Public Law Department, Rivers State University, and also former chairman of MBA Omoko branch. Good morning, Prof. Thank you for joining us. Last time we spoke to you, you were chairman of the branch. So we're good to have you on again today. Been a while, though. So
good morning, Camberlin, and good morning, Nigerians.
Yes, indeed. I mean, the dailies described different words today of that matter: confusion, mayhem, all sorts going out. And I wonder how you lawyers just sit back and be analyzing all of these things from the point of law, scrambling to see what's going on. But from what a lot of people can see, it is indeed confusing. So tell us, Prof, what do you make of what's going on?
Well, very disturbing, very sad, as you have said, is the list of what law and order expects. I mean, the list of what the state expects in practice of constitutional democracy. It's an unfortunate, very unfortunate and brazen abuse of the intents of the Constitution.
You know I hear people talk about, say, look, there will either be a legal solution or a political solution. If both of them can meet, who knows? So I guess one of the ways we can look at this is from the point of law. So from your legal perspective now, in terms of how the event unfolded, first of which, when the assembly complex had been touched. So what does the law say about where a sitting can hold, and what are the processes for that?
I've always said, if you look at the Constitution, it does not situate the House in the physical property. I think the assemblage is the assemblage of representatives of the people with the mace, which is the symbol of authority. So, yeah, you can have situations where the House resolves to meet elsewhere, and that will be a legitimate place to meet, so long as members of the House agree on meeting in that place. You can have situations where the House is unusable, where it's in renovation. Governance does not stop in those cases. And so it will remain hallowed chambers. If the House resolves to sit at a particular place, it will be a legitimate sitting.
So, resolving to sit at that particular place means they've got to go through their internal. But wait, Prof, if the place had already been touched, before they resolve to sit somewhere else, they have to meet somewhere and then decide. So, were they not supposed to have met before then and then decide? Or did they meet at that place and then validate their meeting at that particular venue?
I suppose that a mere motion moved will be able to bring the halo character to that environment once they sit. Because especially in this kind of situation, if a place gets touched or some natural calamity happens to the building, they cannot go into that environment where something has already happened to hold a meeting and take a resolution before they can be active. So it will be their adopting wherever they are, moving a motion and adopting the place for the sitting that will confer the hollowness on that place. And that will become chambers once they do that.
Okay, so if that were to happen, under what circumstances can the state governor say, no sitting can hold here, I am the chief security officer of the state, and as such, nothing can happen here?
Because government works as one body. If there is a notification, remember that the executive is in charge of execution of policies, maintenance, and all such activities. So if there is a proper notification from the executive to the legislature concerning the place of meeting, that will be legitimate government action, because it is the responsibility of the executive to inspect and to fix or repair whatever has gone wrong with any government property. That is execution.
But in this case, I don't know if we're missing some points here because a lot of things happen real quick. Now, from what was out there, if the governor then goes to that particular venue and says, you can't sit here, but out there, the information out there is that, well, they didn't sit there, they sat somewhere else. So does that decision or pronouncement by the governor invalidate the sitting that had already held in a place that was sanctified, or they brought the hallowedness in that particular place to take that decision, the lawmakers now?
I am afraid we can't say so.
Oh, okay. Okay, then, pardon me, go on. I think you're coming
because it is not the declaration of any public officer's legitimacy on the sitting. Any particular public officer that lends legitimacy to the sitting. I think it's the adoption of the sitting place by a motion moved by the members of the assembly, and that confers the character and status of a hallowed chamber on wherever they meet. So it is not the declaration, I'm afraid.
So, Prof, do you have any information as to how, because the majority leader, was it majority? But the leader of the House was suspended by the House. They sat and said, he's been removed. He's no more. Then we'll get another report saying he emerged as Speaker. So do you have any information to say that, well, if we can use the word, validly met, or a majority met and elected him as Speaker?
Chamberlain, is a bit unclear and difficult at this stage. Just as you said, we have also heard that members of the House met somewhere and took some action, resolved on taking some action against the governor, sending an impeachment notice. We also had another faction of the House met elsewhere and took some steps. Yeah, the first one purportedly removed the Speaker, the leader of the House, and purportedly set the stage for impeaching the governor. And we also had another faction met. We can't speak for the numbers. It's a bit difficult and unclear for us now because they are all reported matters. So we also hear another faction met and took some other action, removing House officers, especially the leadership of the House, and electing new House officers. This kind of confusion is not new to us. It's not strange. And I think we are back to witnessing the kind of thing we witnessed last time. That was dissimilar.
Okay. So yesterday, our correspondent, Charles Opurum, had gone back to the House of Assembly, and, you know, there was quiet right there. Everything looked very peaceful. He also gave us the information that initially the House had adjourned to the Thursday this week, when they last sat, I think on Friday, the 27th of October. They adjourned to Thursday, the 2nd of November this week. And they didn't explain why they had this emergency meeting. Is it possible that you can just have an emergency meeting after you've adjourned to a particular date?
I think a meeting has to be properly, if the House had adjourned to Thursday, it raises an issue. If there is an emergency situation that calls for meeting, then appropriate notices ought to have been given and all that before that can happen. But as it is, it's yet somewhat unclear to us, observing from outside the House. But I think if the House properly adjourned to meet on Thursday, if there is an emergency, then there ought to have been effective communication of that emergency and effective decision to have that emergency meeting that they had.
Okay, so would you consider Friday to Monday sufficient time to pass that information around?
I suppose the character of emergency will make that possible. I mean, if we had a challenge affecting the health and well-being of citizens of the state, a natural calamity or any other kind of calamity, or even an outbreak of war or some kind of attack on the state, it will be legitimate for an emergency meeting to be called within that time frame. So yes, I think for purposes of emergency, that may be sufficient.
Well, in addition to what the governor said yesterday, after he was able to visit the site of the arson on the House of Assembly, he said, in addition to saying that he is the chief security officer and he's the one who should determine he should find a suitable place for the House of Assembly to sit, he also declared that whatever had happened in any place, in any purported place, was null and void. Is that a statement that can be rightly made?
I am afraid no. We have to say this, that a lot of anomaly happened yesterday. The governor, as you know, is dubbed chief security officer, even though I always question how they can do that when they do not control the security forces. But the governor tried to go to where that incident happened, and we saw video clips of the governor being directly attacked, sprayed with water, tear gas thrown at the governor, guns being shot, and all of that. It was difficult to comprehend how that could happen in a civil governance, in a civil government, and in an environment like what we have at the moment. So when you consider all those anomalies, you are likely to have those kind of declarations. But attachment of legal value depends on what the law says and what the courts who interpret the law will say. So I am afraid none of us, no individual, will be able to make that declaration.
Okay, now to the attack on the governor, because I mean you have also highlighted that as well, and that's what a lot of Nigerians also saw on TV screens yesterday. We're inundated with that, you know, tear gas, water cannons, etc. On a governor. Are there any legal? I'm looking for the right words now. I'm wondering whether it's legal complications, implications. Are there legal consequences for that?
In a state run by law, in a nation under the law, everybody who took such action and anybody who made such decision attacked the Nigerian state and ought to be brought to book.
In other words, the governor represents the Nigerian state, and he was attacked yesterday.
Yes, the constitutional order. The governor represents the Nigerian constitution, the Nigerian state. So an attack on the governor, in the way we saw it yesterday, was a very serious offense, for which whomever did that attacked the Nigerian state and ought to be brought to book, ought to be subjected to the laws of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. To do otherwise would be sending a very dangerous message.
Well, Rivers has had a very, I'm looking for the right words again, and I'm selecting my words very, very carefully. You know, I don't want to say turbulent political history, but this sort of controversy is not novel to Rivers State in terms of political transitions, in terms of, you know, from one successor to the predecessor to a successor. And in the middle of all of this has been the relationship. What has been fingered for all that has happened in Rivers yesterday is the relationship between the predecessor, who was the current minister of the Federal Capital Territory, former Governor Nyesom Wike, and his current successor, Governor Siminalayi Fubara. And people have said it's because the relationship has gone sour. I think my colleague Chamberlain has already alluded to, will it be a political solution? Will it be a legal solution? But given the events of yesterday, do you think that for the sake of the people of River State, do you think that they're beyond a political solution, or can this really be resolved legally, given all of the different arms of government that have now been involved as a result of the actions of yesterday?
Every problem or activity in the political space can profit from a political solution. But I am concerned that when the Nigerian state is attacked the way it was done yesterday, there must be a legal response. Look, no nation has been known to survive from political arrangements. There is no nation in which you will have that kind of situation, an affront on the state and on the constitution of the nation, and it is politically resolved. Necessary legitimate action should be taken. For once you skip it, you open the floodgate to the fact that that can happen. And then, yes, Rivers State is beginning to acquire that history of having that character. But you know that this is a short history for Rivers State. Rivers State is a state that has been in existence since about 1967 or so. And this appears to play out only with some specific characters. It is not the culture of Rivers State. It is not the history of Rivers State. It's a history being brought upon Rivers State by specific actors who are in the field and when they act from specific locations. I think if you want to think back, you won't go beyond one time that this has happened. And it's the same actors, the same characters, the same kind of action from the same location.
Okay, well, I understand that we have to go to break now. Prof, I'm going to ask you to please stay on with us. Okay, but just before we do, my colleague Ayo has a question or two for you.
Well, thank you, Maupe. Prof, thank you for, being here and all the education you've given us. But let's speak to some politics, first of all. As Chamberlain and Maupe alluded earlier on the program, it's like this sprung on everyone, as a surprise. Even Chamberlain said that that kind of surprise could wake the dead. Did you see this coming?
I cannot say I did not see it coming. When you have the kind of events that unfolded in Rivers State in the last, let's say in the last 1 year, and especially towards the transition, when you have the structure of government hedged the way they were done, this was bound to happen. If there is a surprise for me, it will be that it happened a little too soon. I expected it to come up somewhere along the line, but not this soon. That is the only surprise for me. But this was anticipated from the structure of the new government that was formed. It was clearly anticipated by anybody who knows a little of Rivers history.
Help us understand. Yeah, help us understand what this structure is and why it was, as you seem to be saying, broken from the beginning.
Well, if you have a transition and the entire government, nearly the entire government that is supposed to be transitioning out is returned, it raises issues and questions of control. If you look at how the current government was structured up to yesterday, I hear rumors, I don't know if they are all true, about dissolution of some instruments of government and all that. But if you look at the way it was structured, it was practically a return of the previous government. Now, what will happen is that there will be loyalty questions, and there will be questions of who controls that structure. Nearly the entire cabinet was returned. A few additions or a few changes that you could call cosmetic took place. And offices composed, appointive positions and all that, the way they were all structured, it was a practical reenactment of the government that was supposed to be transitioning out. So, as I said, when you have that kind of situation, there will definitely be the question of where does loyalty lie and what is likely to happen. And what is the purpose of such wholesale return of the previous structure. The kind of situation we have now will be anticipated.
But Prof, wasn't that supposed to be a good thing in the name of continuity? I mean, it's the same political party, it's the same political structure, so to speak, because it's the same political structure that campaigned for the government in power. I mean, maybe some of us are getting some things wrong.
Yeah, it ought to be a good thing. But Nigerian experience does not tell you it's a good thing. Look at it, though where that much did not happen. Look at other states where some level of involvement of the outgoing government was rather prominent in the structures set up by the new government. The very idea of governance is that every 4 or 8 years, society should be able to get the benefit of a new beginning. And you could do well, but you know the usual thing. Staying too long in government raises questions about the government. So it ought to have been a good thing, but it raises the question of who is taking the actions, where does loyalty lie?
Okay.
And when you have that,
yeah,
you're definitely going to have those situation, which is what we have right now. As I said, the only surprise is that it's coming so early in the day. But it was expected to happen.
Well, talking about expectations, I'm right now, I'm a little confused whether or not there is a House of Assembly in Rivers State. Because on the one hand, we just heard, I mean, just as you analyzed to us the other time, the House leader was suspended in one breath. And before we know what is happening, we understand that a good number of the people, the members of the House, who elected to suspend the House leader or remove him as, House leader, also crossed to the other side to elect that particular House leader as Speaker of the House of Assembly. So, legitimately, legally speaking, is there a House of Assembly right now in Rivers State?
Once members of the House have been elected by the constituencies and the House has been proclaimed, there is a House of Assembly. We can raise question of what is really happening. Are they really sitting the way the Constitution expects them to do? Or are they sitting in splinter groups? Are we going to have even more factions emerging and making declarations? Those are the things that are not clear. And the reason it is not clear is that there is a situation that renders the use of the normal chambers where we could go to glean the fact and determine what is going on. There is a situation that has rendered that place not usable. That is why we have this situation. So you're having sittings, and we'll be getting reports of sittings that we may not be aware of where the sittings are holding. Legitimacy questions may be raised and all that. But I think these are issues that will have to be answered or determined by the branch of government that has capacity to do so, and that is the judiciary eventually.
Well, maybe we should ask that question from the point of law. What legitimizes the sitting of a House of Assembly? I mean, both...
I believe it.
Go ahead, sir.
I believe it is the presence of quorum as prescribed by the Constitution. And as I have said, it's not the building, because the building is a physical structure and anything can happen at any time to a building. Natural or man-made calamity can affect a building at all times. So if there is quorum and the symbol of authority is there and the House passes a resolution to adopt the place for sitting, I believe that that is a hallowed chamber for the purpose of governance.
So when you say symbol of authority, are you talking about the mace?
The mace, yes.
Okay. But does that, are we to say, that's the reason actually that I asked the question whether or not we have a House of Assembly in River State, because, I mean, can we say that the mace was used at both points? If the mace was used at both sittings, then which one is the legitimate sitting?
That is the question. But you know, even the mace, situation may arise where the mace could even be absent. What if the calamity that rendered the house incapable of being used also consumed the mace? What if the fire burnt down everything in the house, including the mace? Does it mean that government will come to an end until a new mace is made and consecrated or something before the chambers can meet or before the house can meet? So these are questions that are all thrown up by the situation. Unfortunately, we are not in position to know because we do not have the full facts of who met where and how they met and with what mace they met. I know the mace is not in itself the magic wand, because what consumed the house could have consumed the mace, and government will not come to an end in the circumstance.
So, well, which raises the question again, what legitimizes a house? But there is more when we return from this break, Prof. So please stay with us.
In a twist of events similar to that of 2013, Governor Siminalayi Fubara of River State is making efforts with the help of the security aides to gain access into the State House of Assembly complex. His intention, according to the state government, is to inspect the complex, which was gutted by fire on Sunday night. But on arrival at the Moscow Road, where the assembly is located, his convoys met with stiff resistance by uniformed men. Tear gas canisters and gunshots were released to push back the governor's convoy. But insisting on going further, the governor damns the consequences as he alights from his vehicle and walks by foot to the complex, where he inspects what is left of the assembly chambers.
From what I've seen, the civilians even compromised.
Yeah, exactly.
They were shooting at me. They were shooting at me. This operation was shooting at me directly. But it doesn't matter. Somebody will die one day.
Yes.
I want to die. When people hear Fubara, they say, who is this Fubara? Is that man that was killed one time for a struggle?
You will not die. You will not die.
I am not against anybody. I am not planning anything against anybody. I'm the chief security officer. I'm the head of the government. The first person that should come, declare the place, and create an alternative place for assembly to sit. So whatever action that is taken here is none.
His visit comes few minutes after 24 out of the 32 members of the State Assembly sat to suspend 4 members and presented a notice of impeachment to be served on the governor over alleged gross misconduct. With cheers from his supporters, Governor Fubara, in company of now suspended leader and members of the State House of Assembly, walked back to the government house where he addresses the crowd at the gate, vowing to resist any unlawful impeachment process.
So my journey today is, whatever it is that wants to happen, let it happen. If Siminalayi Fubara is impeached, I am not the first, neither will I be the last. Come out and tell the people of Rivers State that offense that Fubara committed that is warranting impeachment. So, but my happiness this morning is the people of Rivers, represented by every one of you here, is with us. I can go home and sleep.
Residents will only hope that this crisis, coming less than 6 months into his current administration, does not escalate.
Thank you for staying with us. We're still talking about the situation in Rivers State. Prof, let's talk about a couple of interventions that are playing out currently. The police, let's begin with that one. The governor said that the police shot at him, on the one hand. On the other hand, he also has a convoy that includes the police. Glad to know that the Nigeria police has already said that they are aware of the security situation at the Rivers House of Assembly and that they are actively addressing the matter. They've launched a comprehensive investigation to uncover the circumstances and will take immediate action against those responsible. What do you make of this, and how hopeful are you, how confident are you that something significant will come out of that?
Sorry, I'm experiencing some audio difficulty. You are not audible enough.
Okay, can you hear me better now?
I think it's slightly better now, yes.
Okay. The situation that the governor spoke about, that on the one hand, cops shot at him, meanwhile in his own convoy, there are still cops. And the police now say that they are looking into the matter. What do you make of that conundrum?
It's entirely abuse of powers. I don't know who. The House of Assembly of the state is very close to the police headquarters. So I do not see how there could be some kind of error. Is it inability to identify who was coming or what? I don't know what the investigation is going to be focused on and what is going to reveal, because there was no way you could have mistaken who was coming. And there was no way that it would have been necessary to attack who was coming, even if it was just Rivers citizens going to see what had happened to the House of Assembly of the state. There was no way you could have, directed the water cannon at the governor directly, fired shots and fired cannons with tear gas, with the canisters almost hitting him if he didn't dodge from time to time. It was a clear affront on the law by whoever was doing that and whoever directed them to do what they were doing. Yeah, the cops who were with the governor, 2 or 3 or whatever the number, were cops who were guarding the governor specifically and directly. And I'm sure those who were firing these things also saw them. Nevertheless, they carried on with the activity in the true character of lawlessness that we have experienced in Rivers State in the past. You remember the case of Commissioner Mbu, who at a point even tried to hold the governor under house arrest to prevent him from leaving the government house sometime in the past, the administration before the immediate past administration. I think this is what we are witnessing playing out again, a brazen abuse of the law and the constitution of the land. And I think it is worrisome. It will be sad to see Rivers State descending again to the state of anarchy that it was thrown into in the past, and something needs to be done to curb that.
Well, the second kind of intervention we're hearing is that PDP governors are going to hold an emergency meeting for some kind of intervention. What, in your opinion, are likely to be brought up at that meeting? How is that likely to produce any results?
Well, between the combatants, I'm not certain whether it can directly produce any result. The state is under PDP government, but I think at this point of conflict, the conflict seems to be between the government of the state and some elements who are working outside the government of the state. So if that is the case, because the state is a PDP, a state under PDP government, it will be expected that PDP governors will move, or PDP as a party will move, take steps to see what it could do to douse whatever problem was arising from the state, since supposedly the state is under PDP government. It will also be in their interest to meet, because this can also be interpreted as an attack on the opposition, since it's a territory governed by the opposition. It will also be necessary for them to meet and fashion out how they can respond to it, to take steps to preserve the government that is an opposition government or a PDP government in an APC-run government, national government. So I think such meetings will be expected at this point.
Well, Prof...
As to the effect it can have, I guess it will have to be by their calling on the government at the center to do something about the situation, because it doesn't look like all the parties that they need to meet with will be in that meeting.
Well, Prof, there's something you said about the fact, and you said that repeatedly, even in response to Chamberlain's questions earlier, that this whole thing is strange to Rivers State. What do you think is at the heart of it? And how do we make sure that this doesn't happen again? You've referenced the fact that 2 governments before now, this happened, and it seems that it's likely to fester for a while. What is at the heart of this, and how do we ensure it doesn't happen again?
I think it is restoring the rule of law and ensuring that the instruments of coercion of the state are not used against the Constitution itself. Every time people are condemned, are considered less than human, what follows is their extermination. And any time there is the impression that the public instruments of coercion can be used and abused by any persons in privileged position, what you are witnessing usually results. So we need to do something about stopping the abuse of the public instrument of coercion, which is what is being deployed and which is what is emboldening those who are acting at the moment. I think that is the direction we need to look at, how to ensure that public institutions and instruments of coercion serve the ends and purposes of the Constitution, and how to plug the loophole through which they are being abused.
The question then is, where is are these instruments of coercion coming from? Who is wielding them? As you said again, this is not the first time, and it's happening now. And who's to say that it's not going to happen again? So if in restoring the rule of law, as you said, and forestalling the wielding of instruments of coercion, who is usually at the heart or behind these instruments?
The last time it happened in Rivers State, it was action from those who control the security agencies. And you know that the security agencies is not under the control of the state. And so whatever we are looking for here lies outside the state. It lies at the center. Or at the notorious time of Mbo's commissionership of the police in Rivers State, he made it clear that he does not take instruction from the chief security officer of the state. And if you look at the law, his instruction comes from above, from Abuja. And so whatever we'll have to deal with here is coming from the ends from which police can be authorized to directly attack the custodian of the Constitution in the state. It's not within.
Okay. Well, that's very, very interesting.
Outside the states.
Okay. Chamberlain, back to you.
Prof, concerning your earlier view about where constitutes a proper place for legislative proceedings, I've had lawyers who are quick to remind us that they thought that the court in Peter Obi's case said you cannot constitute a hotel as a seat, a place where you can have sitting for the House of Assembly and call it such, because it means that that might just end up being chaotic. Anybody could go anywhere and do any of such.
Yeah, where there is a public facility reserved for sitting of the House, it would be absurd for you to consecrate some other place as a place for carrying out our public business. But what if there is a flood that has consumed the area? What if there is the kind of situation you had yesterday, fire that has engulfed the house? Government will not wait until a new one is built. If you look at the language of the Constitution, from section 95 to 96, down to 97, which is on language of use in the House and voting in the House, section 98, all of them emphasize the character of sitting, not the place where the sitting is holding. And since the Constitution says quorum is XYZ, once that quorum is met, I think that where they are sitting will not be necessary if there is an explanation for why they are not sitting at the usual place. If a court carries out its activities outside the buildings of the judiciary, there will be question. The same thing if government decides to sit elsewhere and act, there will be question if they are not acting from the place designated for it. But if there is something that has affected that place designated for it, I believe that a motion moved will render any place they are sitting, even if it's under an umbrella tree, it will render that place fit for sitting and carrying out of the activities of government with respect to the legislative arm.
So does it then mean that since this group, this first group claimed that they were the majority who met, probably constituted that place into a hallowed place where they can have their sitting and carry out their action, does it then mean that if another group is to counter that action, it has to be in that same venue, nowhere else?
There are specifics the Constitution provided about the meeting of the House. It says it shall be presided over by the Speaker, and in the absence of the Speaker, the Deputy Speaker. And in the absence of that, by any officer whom the House designates to do so for that sitting. So it means if you have quorum, you have the right officers, or the right officers are absent. The Constitution did not provide for the kind of reason that will make them absent, and the House resolves and appoints one of them to preside. It means that the constitutional expectations have been met. Okay, so if you have one third of the members, which is the quorum prescribed by the Constitution,
okay,
it does look like business can be conducted.
All right. Tell us, give us your interpretation of Section 11.4 of the 1999 Constitution here, because many already say that this is a perfect scenario. It is rife that the National Assembly will then have to come in and take over the functions of the State Assembly since they cannot perform the functions, so to speak. Is that right?
Yeah, the Constitution provides for that emergency situation concerning order and public security, where it becomes impossible for the House to sit. It provides for the National Assembly to be able to take over the functions of the House. What I can tell is whether right now we have reached that point. But if we have a polarized situation where each faction can summon one-third of the House, meaning the quorum required, and actions are taking place in conflicting manner and is threatening the peace and security of this part of the nation, yes, it will be legitimate for Section 11 to be resorted to.
Well, what I'm looking at now are a number of other actions yesterday. You made reference to it. You said that they still seemed like they were in the realm of rumor. But while we're waiting for concrete, will I say, confirmation of what it is that we've heard, and I'm sure that we should be getting that much clearer in the course of today, that local government chairmen have been sacked. The other faction of the House of Assembly, which was said to have sat, led by the majority leader who was removed in the morning, was said to have removed the chief judge of the state and asked the governor to appoint another chief judge. These are some of the stories that we have heard. I do not know if you can put any confirmation to it. I know that we are the media house and we should be confirming that to you. But, I mean, you are right there in Rivers State and you would also have a very clear idea of what has happened right there in the state. But looking at this, looking at all of that, I mean, some people will say these are all the casualties. We're still looking through the consequences of some of what has transpired yesterday. First, I want you to respond to that, if this is what you have also heard.
I have heard it just the way you said. I have also heard of such things, but what I can confirm is I have not listened to any broadcast where that was done. I have also heard that in the sitting of the House that passed a resolution asking the governor to suspend the chief judge and all that. I have heard that such resolutions were passed by that sitting. I cannot confirm beyond that concerning the local government and all of that. I cannot confirm whether the recommendations have been carried out and whether those things have all been done. But I have heard from the outside that those are actions that we are taking yesterday.
Can they stand in law, all of these actions, assuming they were proven to be true? Would they have a legal basis?
You recall that even contrary to the Constitution, most of the states have included provisions in their local government law that make all kinds of things possible. Ordinarily, suspension of the chairman of a local government should have been an issue that is internal to that local government, that should follow the constitutional process of the House, the local legislature, passing those resolutions and taking the steps required by law. But in the local government law of nearly all the states, you have provisions for removal of the chairman by the governor, XYZ situations like the House of Assembly calling for it to be done, and some other situations under which it can be done. So it is possible with respect to the local government that they have created those loopholes through which the House of Assembly may be making such recommendations. Otherwise, they would have had legal consequences. So I can say that for the House of Assembly. I'm not certain about the others, but what usually happens in times of war is that all parties, one way or the other, resort to illegalities.
More concretely, this one is in respect to the chief judge of the state. What is the process for removing a chief judge?
If you clearly, you'll find that has removal of a chief judge. Well, we're talking of suspension here. I think what is possible is that the one we know, which is the usual channel where there is a complaint against the chief judge and it goes to the NJC, NJC can make a recommendation. But I think Justice Onogien's case gave us the opportunity to see clearly that there may be need for administrative suspension where, for instance, the office of the chief judge is being investigated and he cannot preside over his activity. I tried at that time to distinguish between administrative suspension and punitive suspension. The suspension that results from investigation that comes as a punishment with some things attached, such as reduced salary, non-payment of salary and all that. Those are punitive. But stepping aside to enable an investigation is administrative. The person affected does not lose anything. That is purely administrative. So in this case, I'm afraid that we cannot say with certainty what the reasons are for what has been done and whether it falls within what we can say is administrative suspension, a reason for so doing. Definitely removal is out of the question. And I think the language I had concerning yesterday was suspension.
Well, it's going to be very, very interesting because even recently there are cases where local government chairmen who were suspended they went to court saying, no, a governor cannot suspend validly elected local government chairman. The same way the president cannot suspend validly elected governors. And so, who knows? Maybe in the days ahead, we may see the local government, the quote, suspended local government chairman go to court and get a stay saying, no, we were validly elected, you cannot suspend us. And so I'm sure the courts will be very busy in the days ahead.
Because the courts will be made unnecessarily very busy again. But the Supreme Court, excuse me.
Yeah. Okay. I guess, Prof, that might be our cue.
The Supreme Court has in the past claimed local government is under the provision of the states for the state to create the way they function and all that. And that has enabled them to infuse these provisions, which they have continued to use because the Constitution gives the House of Assembly the power to make laws regulating the local governments.
All right, Professor Richard Nwakocha, Public Law, University of Rivers State University, I beg your pardon, former chairman of MBA Omoku branch. Thank you for joining us today on the program.
Thank you for having me. It's a citizen's duty.
All right, then. We're back in just a moment. Stay on with us.
Southwood. Fine furnishings for your home and office. Southwood is a Nigerian company dedicated to improving the quality of workplaces and homes. Our space planning and craftsmanship allows you to create a highly customized and comfortable office environment for hardworking and busy executives. Southwood solutions are perfect for today's flexible work cultures. Teamwork, transparency, collaboration. A well-designed and comfortable work environment is proven to increase productivity and morale. Our elegant home furnishings provide the ultimate in comfort and quality. Southwood, furnishings that shape your world. Visit us today at southwoodnigeria.com. Email us at furniture@southwoodnigeria.com or call 0700-FURNITURE.
Discover Lipton's flavorful and balanced taste. We pick fine quality tea leaves from selected tea gardens around the world to give you Lipton Yellow Label's flavorful and balanced taste in every sip.
Hey, big papa. Thank you. Welcome. Thank you. Sit down. How you doing now?
They can't pay.
I bring your medicine.
Thank you.
Papa, we are Miko.
Miko don't go work. Miko don't join oil business.
Oil business?
Yes, sir.
Which company? Papa, Miko don't they follow them go cook oil? That's illegal.
Small oil.
It's a crime. That kind of business no good for Miko at all. It is illegal and very dangerous.
What happened?
Wow. Papa, na fire for you with the cook oil. Who just hear stuff from nowhere?
My country people, palava we bunker and illegal refinery they cause for the community. Too plenty. Our picking them we get better future. Don't they pay me on top? We they carry our own hand. Spoil we land and water. I beg you, no follow the do or sponsor this kind of business. Now Pipeline Infrastructure Nigeria Limited and NNPCL say make we tell you now.
Southwood. Fine furnishings for your home and office. Southwood is a Nigerian company dedicated to improving the quality of workplaces and homes. Our space planning and craftsmanship allows you to create a highly customized and comfortable office environment for hardworking and busy executives. Southwood solutions are perfect for today's flexible work cultures. Teamwork, transparency, collaboration. A well-designed and comfortable work environment is proven to increase productivity and morale. Our elegant home furnishings provide the ultimate in comfort and quality. Southwood, furnishings that shape your world. Visit us today at southwoodnigeria.com. Email us at furniture@southwoodnigeria.com or call 0700-FURNITURE.
This isn't just another routine gathering of members of the People's Democratic Party, PDP. It's a special occasion where the party's 2023 presidential candidate, Atiku Abubakar, wants to react to the recent Supreme Court judgment in a case he filed challenging President Tinubu's electoral victory. Senior members of the party, including the acting national chairman, the chairman of the Board of Trustees, and some former governors, are in attendance.
We may be disappointed, but one thing I want to reiterate here is that we are not deterred.
The PDP's presidential candidate, Atiku Abubakar, then takes to the podium for his address. He outlines what he believes could be the implications of the judgment on future elections in Nigeria.
The judgments of the PEPC and the Supreme Court have far-reaching grave implications, including the following. One is the erosion of trust in the electoral system and our democracy. When people lose trust and confidence in elections, democracy is practically on life support. The other grave implication is that contestants in Nigeria's election should do whatever is necessary to be declared winner. That includes identity theft, impersonation, forging of educational and other documents, perjury, and violence. The third is that if you are robbed of victory, do not bother going to cause for redress, because your glaring evidence of the robbery will be ignored in favor of the mandate bandit.
However, the former vice president is not silent on his next line of action.
As for me and my party, this phase of work is done. However, I'm not going to go away. If you think I'm going to go away, forget about it. For as long as I breathe, I will continue to struggle with other Nigerians to deepen our democracy and rule of law.
He also suggests some reforms to Nigeria's electoral laws and more.
We can urgently make constitutional amendments, and I'm happy members of the National Assembly are here, that will prevent any court or tribunal from hiding behind technicalities and legal sophistry to affirm electoral haste and undermine the will of the people. We must make electronic voting and collation of results mandatory. We must provide that all litigation arising from a disputed elections must be concluded before inauguration of a winner.
Other recommendations are mandatory electronic voting and collation of results, conclude all electoral litigations before inaugurating a winner, as well as require a presidential candidate to secure 50% plus one of all valid votes cast or conduct a runoff for the two leading candidates. The Supreme Court's verdict on October the 26, 2023 has sparked numerous responses from both the ruling party and the opposition parties. For the PDP presidential candidate, this judgment marks a chapter in his political career, but by no means signifies its conclusion.
Welcome back. Yes, Honorable Aneka Nomana joins us now. He was a member of the, that's the 8th Assembly, isn't it?
9th.
Okay, the 9th Assembly is of the People's Democratic Party. Thank you for coming on this morning.
Thank you very much.
The comment, the speech by Atiku Abubakar, we know that before that time he had said, well, he believes in, has implicit confidence in the judiciary, believes that they'll do the right things. Then, now he's clearly not happy with the way the things have turned, which just clearly shows us, well, if politicians, if judgment don't go in their way, chances are that you'll get to hear that they're not happy with the way those kind of things are. So that in itself doesn't necessarily, even though, yes, we'll come to his recommendations, but those perspectives right there about not being happy with the way the judgment went, saying that it comes across as though he's saying we'll have, what, the Supreme Court is saying, well, if it's okay to break the laws and do certain things, then Nigeria is doomed. Those kind of perspectives, look, I don't know if every member of your party are on the same page with him on this kind of matter, because it sends a different message entirely in terms of democracy, when the courts rule, and what we should do moving forward. What, for instance, is your perspective on this matter?
First, thank you very much for bringing me on, and good morning to Nigerians. I want to say first that I think the presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party in the last election, Atiku Abubakar, every right to ventilate his views and positions roundly provided in sections 33 through 45 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, particularly at section 39, where freedom of expression, or freedom of speech, and what he feels. He went to court. He doesn't feel satisfied, but he has a right to say how he feels. But that being the case, the Supreme Court has ruled. The final arbiter in the matter, there's really nothing anyone can do at this point.
So was that statement necessary then?
Like I said, he has a right to make his statements, and he has every freedom to express the way he feels, because he had an expectation. The expectation perhaps didn't come through. So he's expressing how he feels. So he's completely right in expressing how he feels. Yeah. And as a contestant.
Well, he went on to make some recommendations. I know my colleagues will focus on some of the other matters, but those recommendations of his, because, I mean, you haven't also played, still playing in politics. Are you planning to contest in the future or sometime?
Yeah, time will tell. Okay. Time will tell.
That's a safe way out.
Yeah.
Jimmy, just before you move to the recommendations, what I wanted to know, I think that was the thrust of your question, was whether that sentiment, the sentiment which he expressed, did it express fully, did it capture fully sentiment of majority of members of your political party?
Obviously so, because he had an expectation. And of course, the expectation didn't come through. Like you're going for a football match and you're expecting that you will win, and then of course it didn't come your way. It's not, you won't clap for yourself and start running a party.
We all see that.
Yeah,
so the spirit of sportsmanship. Everybody, you shake yourself. Ref, they're not happy with the ref.
Yeah,
but they shake
it's not good, but it has happened. It has happened. The Supreme Court has ruled, and there's nothing anyone can do about it. It also doesn't take away how he feels or how the political party feels.
What I'm asking about is the choice of expression. I'm going to read some of what he said. The bigger loss is not mine, but for Nigeria. If the Supreme Court implies that crime is good and should be rewarded, then Nigeria has lost and the country is doomed, irrespective of who occupies the office. Does that capture the sentiment of majority of members of your party?
Again, as a political party, you expect a win, whether on the ballot on the first day or in the litigation that follows. So this didn't happen. So I do not expect in politics that you will start clapping and celebrating a loss. No political party does that. No politician does that. So there was an expectation. The expectation didn't come through. And we've gotten to the final point of this. So what do we do? Move forward.
The thing is, you believe you didn't lose fairly.
Obviously, everybody in the country felt differently after the election. But of course, it also does not take away the facts of the litigations and how it's being looked at. But we've gone through all of this to the end. Where are we now? We have to move forward because we can reverse the gear at this point because the Supreme Court has ruled. There's really nothing anyone can practically do at this point than to ventilate the feelings and make recommendations like he did.
But you know, if I could just follow up on that, part of that statement also says, we show, quoting that statement now, part of it, we showed irrefutable evidence of gross irregularities, violence, and manipulations during the elections. We showed incontrovertible evidence that INEC violated the Electoral Act and deliberately sabotaged its own publicly announced processes and procedure in order to illegally declare Tinubu elected. The position of the Supreme Court, even though final, leaves so much unanswered. But what we heard the justices say, what several lawyers who have put across, is that this right here appears to be passing the buck. They've talked about the processes, how the lawyers need to prepare their case, argue their case. If they felt the party didn't do it right, or the candidates and their lawyers didn't do it right, and then you then say, well, the Supreme Court, clearly something is wrong here, because the adjoining paragraph here says, talks about Justice Atiku saying something is not right with the Supreme Court.
Yes, well, at this point, where we are, we can't exactly say what is right or wrong with the Supreme Court. It is better it's coming from the justices of the Supreme Court, because they work there, they understand the issues. But looking at the electoral issue, of course, we have a barrage of electoral problems and issues surrounding all elections in this country. Yes, I have been a witness, I've been a participant, observer, so we have experienced some of these things. There are several things that INEC said they would do that they never did. There are several issues.
We also know that.
Yes.
But part of what I'm asking is, look, we have heard judges how they said it. If they say we were going to do something, and then it wasn't part of the law, and the judges said, look, it's not part of the law. So they could promise you something, but insofar as it isn't enshrined in the law and they broke it, it's not tantamount to breaking the law, is it?
See, the interpretations we have as laymen, that they call us, completely different from what they do in the court. We could move in from the field.
I thought that was clear enough.
Yeah, you will move in from the field, and then they go and tell you something else from the standpoint of the law, like they say. So what do? They have ruled. And we have gotten to the very final point. It does not take away the irregularities. It does not take away what is wrong. What is wrong is wrong.
Did the party prove that in the court? That's the issue. Because many thought, look, we have fantastic lawyers all over there, all over the places. So, but if they missed out some key things and everybody saw this gaping hole, how do we then...
in all that you've presented, and they said, and then the court says, look, this is what we accept because this is what is good for them. This is what they believe the law says. So what do? That is where we are in Nigeria. So once they've made the pronouncement, the trial court did its part, and then the dissatisfied parties moved to a higher court, and of course the higher court then puts a sledgehammer. So at this point, what do? It's to begin to re-engineer for what happens next. Because no matter what we do at this point, there's nothing that can happen than re-engineering towards what happens next. That is where the party needs to begin its internal re-engineering and working towards what happens next. Because there is no effort. Now, I'm being very frank. There's no effort now that can reverse what has taken place.
Yeah, because look at this, what he says, judges are no longer appointed based on merits, but are products of the interplay of politics and nepotism. It goes on. So,
is it just judges?
No, but the question is it just happening now? Didn't it happen when he was vice president?
Is it just judges? These are part of the internal problems of Nigeria that we must,
politicians know all of these things.
Exactly.
They've been there. They see these things. In fact, some of them were the ones that made these things start happening that way. But when things don't go their way, they then want to push the public so the public can go out there and do certain things. Your party, every party, they have an opportunity to do the right things, but we never seen them do these things until they're out of certain positions. Then people start saying one or two things.
That brings to the point they need to do the right thing. You talked about the right thing. So the right thing must be done irrespective of who is the occupant of the office. You raise the issue of nepotism. There's no reason to do that.
I was reading his...
Okay, well, it doesn't take away the fact that there's nepotism. So those issues are things we must correct as a nation moving forward. We must begin to appoint people who are deserving of a position into those positions. We must begin to look at placing people in the right, going through the right processes. That's why we keep talking about strong institutions and not individuals. If the institution is strong and is right, these things will flow seamlessly. It's not about the individual, but in Nigeria, unfortunately, and in my opinion, it's been more about individuals rather than institutions. And that's why we're having these recurring issues back and forth.
Well, he did say that he was going to be pursuing a number of constitutional reforms, and he's speaking to members of the National Assembly in the PDP right there. He made some recommendations going as far back as the 1995 Constitutional Conference and talking about how rotational presidency amongst the 6 geopolitical zones was something that was mooted back then. The fact that the FCT should have a mayor. And then he now starts to talk about the electoral reforms which he expects, that courts shouldn't be able to hide behind technicalities but will need to rule on substance. Some people will say, isn't that heavily dependent on what is presented before the court?
No, clearly so, clearly so. But of course, the issue of technicalities we have all experienced in the various judgments and so on and so forth. Of course, they can come under any guise to give their judgment. We can say, well, we're not right in there. But of course, some of those recommendations are very germane and important. The issue of rotational presidency, yes. The issue of, he also raised the issue of a single term of 6 years going through zones. Yes, I think that formed part of what was the late former Vice President Alex Ekweme's initial recommendation of 6 geopolitical zone vice presidents. And so it's just an amplification of that position, which is, well, for me, I don't know how it works, but it will take a constitutional hurdle to get through.
We've also seen another, sorry to interrupt you, a sitting president, President Goodluck Jonathan, made this recommendation while he was sitting.
He did.
That a president should only have a single term. Are we glossing over something? Because for this to keep coming up over and over again,
I don't think
there must be something to it.
Well, for me, I don't know how a single term of 6 years, 4 years, and all of, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, the presidential candidate of the PDP, has a right to his views, like I said earlier. But in my opinion, I think that 2 terms would just be appropriate. 2 terms would be appropriate. I think so. He may have his reasons and strong reasons why he's recommending that, and so on. Of course, maybe when he explains further, we will come to the understanding as to why he is recommending that. But he has a right to that recommendation. He also went on to make certain recommendations, like strengthening the electoral laws to enable the electronic processes that will safeguard the electoral process, which I completely agree to.
Electronic
voting, electronic collation, and all of those. Those things are very germane in cleaning up the electoral processes, because all of these issues we are talking about, of course, will not arise if we had those. We have made a success of the banking industry, the success of the telecoms industry. Why is it difficult in the electoral process? So there's actually no hard and fast rule about making these things happen. So if we want to be transparent and we want to be clean with the process, electronic processes will make it cleaner to achieve results. Just like you do, you send your emails, you have a trail. You transfer money, you have a trail. So if you vote electronically or also collect electronically, you have a trail. So all of these issues of whether they collected this or they didn't collect that, or having too much of human influence or human impact in the process would have been taken away. So I completely agree with Alhaji Atiku Abubakar in that recommendation, and I think it's something that the National Assembly would need to look at in proposing amendments to the electoral law, as it were.
Well, there's one more important recommendation, but I know that my colleague, Ayo, has questions for you. Ayo.
Thank you, Maokwe. I just want to ask you, sir, so when you were talking about, weak institutions and all of that, and you kept saying that in Nigeria some things are done differently, how do you personally think that we can strengthen institutions in the country?
I think I'm not getting the second part of your question.
How do you?
I had you up to how.
Yes, I'm asking, how do you think we can strengthen institutions in the country?
Strengthening institutions, it's by following the rule of law. The rule of law is number one. When it's not about the person, but about the institution. When it's about the process and not about the person. So, but we are doing too much of the person, the occupant of a seat, rather than what the institution ought to be doing. That is what we are saying.
Okay.
If we follow the rule of law,
okay, so
everything will work the way it ought to work.
Now, is there a role for the ordinary citizen in the country in strengthening the rule of law, in strengthening our institutions?
Yes, the ordinary citizens of the Federal Republic of Nigeria have the citizens have a responsibility of ensuring that they continue to provide the needed input, the needed checks, the needed observations, the needed criticisms in ensuring that things work the way they ought to work. And they must raise questions where questions need to be raised. They must ask that things be done correctly. They should sue where they need to sue and do the things that they need to do. It's a collective bargain.
Yeah.
So we must, as a people, rise up to the occasion as to issues as it concerns us. But the moment we fold our hands all and stay behind and think that nothing has happened, of course, you know human tendency. They want to do what they think will make them feel
do you see a situation where the comments of ordinary citizens can actually weaken the institutions, that the things that we ordinary citizens say? Do you see a situation where such things can weaken or denigrate the dignity or integrity of our institutions in the country?
No, it depends on the import of the comments. But clearly, the views of citizens, I think, should help strengthen institutions. Because it's a collective bargain, like I said earlier.
I agree that they can help to strengthen. Just a second. I agree that they can help to strengthen. Can those comments also weaken the institutions?
I want to look at it from this in this angle. Yeah, I do not think so. As long as you follow the law, the rule of law, I believe that the comments of citizens, particularly informed comments, should help strengthen the institutions of governance.
Okay, so in what way
there are also
then?
comments that could denigrate, but more than anything else, the views of the people would always help strengthen the institution.
So you don't think that, you know, the comments of, okay, let me ask you this way. The comments of your candidate, the presidential candidate of your party, in what way do you think it strengthens or denigrates the judiciary, the highest judicial body in the land?
Like I did say earlier, Sections 33 to 45, fundamental human rights as enshrined in the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 as amended, accords every citizen of the Federal Republic of Nigeria the right of expression, the freedom of expression, and particularly as Section 39. So the presidential candidate of the PDP has every right to ventilate his views, to ventilate his opinion as a Nigerian.
Okay. So I agree with you on that, but yes.
Or does not, whether it denigrates or not, and so on, still doesn't take away what has taken place.
Okay.
So
now, you know there are some...
He has the right to ventilate his views.
Completely. But you also know that there are some people in Nigeria who call, not just, even though they are ordinary citizens, but they are not just ordinary citizens. They are promoted by way of their, you know, contributions to national development over the years, statesmen. And so certain comments are expected of them and certain comments are not expected of them. Now, when 12 judges, according to one of our guests on this show, 12 judges looked at the cases brought by your candidate. 12. Part of them in the PEPC and the other part from the Supreme Court. And then your candidate comes up with these positions denigrating, as some people believe, the integrity of the Supreme Court of the land. And you think that's okay?
I did say, and I maintain, that he has a right to expression. He has a right to his expression, but that doesn't take away the ruling and the judgment that has been given.
Okay, now going forward now, because there are a number of people who have often said that your party many times, just because the elections do not go in the way of the opposition party, the functions of playing an opposition role isn't active. What kind of role will your party be playing this time around that you are not at the seat of power at the center?
Every opposition party is there to provide the necessary checks on the government in power. Don't forget, the PDP today is in opposition. There was a time there was when the PDP was in the center. And what has come together to form the party that is the government in power today, in their different fragments, were also in opposition. So the opposition party's role is to continue to provide the necessary checks, the necessary observation, criticism, and other views that will help strengthen and make governance better for the populace. And I think the party should continue in that role, raising issues that should be raised, making suggestions that should be made, and of course in putting the necessary heat that will make the government work for the people. That's what is expected.
So just as we wind down, we're not saying he doesn't have a right to his views. Yes, of course he has a right to his views. But we should also not forget, the PDP has itself to blame in this kind of case, because we have heard several people say, number one is that if they had found a solution with Peter Obi, they might not have been here. If they had found a solution with the group of 5 governors, they might not have been here. If they found a solution with Kwango, so these people have all been together. They know themselves very well. Look at the opposition votes, much more than the votes of the ruling party. So if they had pulled together, this would not have been here. But that didn't happen. And now look at where we are. So do you think your party has learned the right lessons?
I hope so. In every election, and once you get through an election season, of course, you have to review and check the lessons learned. But clearly so, the last election was a completely different election in Nigeria, and we must take note of this. It's the first time 3 political parties came and had 12 states each.
Because you have several people thought, these other persons have been contested.
The APC had 12 states, the PDP had 12 states, Labour Party 12 states. For the first time, all 36 states divided in the FCT, 12.
Yeah,
so you could see clearly that it was a different thing. But I completely agree with you that political gymnastics will have to be looked at very carefully in moving forward for any political party, because you have to see how you align the games to see how you win. But clearly so, you can see that if the right alignments were done either way,
because people wanted a change. If they thought the new breed, at least someone knew, which people thought, if they are not aligned behind him, since it's not about him and it's about Nigeria, if you thought about Nigeria at that time, who knows? Who knows who would have been president now? But
mistakes.
The rest is history.
Politics, you make mistakes as you move on, and you correct yourself as you move on. But it's not as straight as we are saying it here, because of so many interests that come to play in the entire political game.
Different interests, it's not just about. You shouldn't be telling us it's only about Nigeria. Interest play, personal interest.
In politics, interest play at any level. Interest will come to play very seriously.
All right, we do thank you for coming, Honorable Adekanumana, member of the 9th House of Assembly and a member of the PDP. Well, look at some comments coming through now. This is from Prof. Enahena, who says there is political chaos in Rivers State. PDP hierarchy must intervene while they can before full-blown chaos and crisis render the state ungovernable. Both parties must sheath their sword, at least for the sake of good governance. Governors should be allowed to work by their sponsors or benefactors. This kind of scenario is becoming untenable, and state assemblies should resist external interference in their businesses.
Well, this is an email also from Ushahemba Vitalis. It says, on Rivers political turmoil, it is a clear lesson for us, the Nigerian youths, not to kill ourselves for politics and politicians. It's all the game of interest. When the interest of the other party is not met, problem erupts. May peace reign in River State. It is too early for this fight between Godfather and son. That's the email there.
Bureau Kenneth says, I urge all players in the River State politics to sheath their swords. The economic and security situations in the country today do not allow room for politics of malice, selfish interest, show of political muscle, and godfatherism. Every loyalty should be to the entire people of River State. Time is bad, and people are suffering. Both the executive and legislators should think of that.
All rightly so. The economy should take center stage. No matter what we do, we need to think about solutions so that people can stop suffering. We thank you all, as always, for letting us be a part of your day. Of course, we'll be back again tomorrow. I'm Chamberlain, so goodbye.
Well, I'm wondering in the light of that if we'll be hearing from the Minister of Power or the Chairman of the NERC as to what exactly is going to happen with the licenses of the discos, which the Guardian newspapers highlighted this morning. But thank you also for watching. I'm Mark Welcome, Yusuf. See you next time.
Sounds like Markwa is expecting bigger news today. I'm Makinde. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
Get ready to drive into the world of the Nigerian Navy as Nigerian Navy in Focus. Navigate the waters alongside the brave men and women of the Nigerian Navy who have dedicated their lives to this noble cause. Their courage, their resilience, and their unwavering commitment to serving the nation, relentless pursuit of safeguarding our maritime borders. Nigerian Navy in Focus transport you to the seas, where bravery meets honor and the depths hold countless untold stories. Every Saturday at 7:30 p.m. on the Nigerian Television Authority NTA International. Every Sunday at 6:30 p.m. on Television Continental TVC. Every Tuesday at 4:30 p.m. on Channels Television and The Navigator. Every Thursday on Federal Radio Corporation of Nigeria FRCN. Don't miss out. It is the Nigerian Navy in Focus. It is all about the Nigerian Navy. Onward together.
Our website, channelstv.com, has more information on our top stories and others. Subscribe and watch Channels Television's live stream on YouTube and other social media platforms using your mobile device browser. Or download the Channels TV app for Android and iOS devices from their respective stores. You can also watch us via your smart TV platforms on Apple TV, Android TV, Fire TV, and Roku.
Channels Television. Ubiquitous.